is coming in the Murphy guys, and this we're reviewing. This is a movie that I've wanted to see for a very long time now, and similar to Lady Bird, I actually didn't know if I was going to get to see this movie, but thankfully I did, and that is none other than Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And what Three Billboards Outside of Missouri is essentially about is we center on this character of Mildred Hayes, and she is a mother who tragically has lost her daughter. Her daughter was recently murdered and raped by an unknown killer, and basically there's been no progress ever since then, and we can see how frustrated Mildred has been. In an effort to get the police to finally get justice done, she decides to put up these three billboards, and we basically see how this really does affect the overall police precinct's reputation, how they grapple with this, and, what they really do about solving this case once and for all, and if they could finally maybe get an answer. So, Three Billboards Outside of Missouri, I was definitely very interested in this movie for a couple of reasons. One, I heard the massive, buzz was getting and all the Oscar potential, so that immediately got me interested. But also the cast here. The cast here is just spectacular, and that was something that definitely did get me interested as well. And the plot in general, I definitely thought was very intriguing. And, in general, I was just very excited to see how this would turn out. And I'm very happy to say that not only the Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri live up to my expectations, but it is easily one of the best movies of the entire year and is an absolute masterpiece. It really is as good as everyone is saying for many reasons. It's such a brutally realistic and honest story that is just so well executed, and we're going to get into all that right now, starting off with the cast. And I'm just going to say right now, if it wasn't for the cast in this movie, I don't think this film would be as good. I mean, sure, you have a really well done script, and we're going to get into that a little bit later, but the cast really, this is a character film, and it very much is, driven by the characters. And if the acting wasn't as good, like I said, I think the film would really fail. And easily the thing that carries this entire film is Frances McDormand as Mildred Hayes. And look, I've seen amazing stuff from her, but this very well may be her best performance I've ever seen from her. I mean, her character, Mildred Hayes, is just so well done because she's a mother who you can tell is very dedicated, but she's also very annoyed. She really does want these answers, and she's just kind of been kept stalling, and she's just kind of stuck. She really wants that closure with her daughter's death, and she's kind of stuck there, and you can see how adamant she is. The lengths that she goes in this movie is insane. I mean, she will do the craziest shit just to get answers for her daughter, and it's insane what she's doing. I mean, you definitely don't want to mess with this woman in any way, but she also has this heart to her, and you can also see the genuine emotion that she's really gone through and how it really has kind of flattened her, and how she is slowly trying to get back into somewhat of a regular lifestyle. And I thought she just did an incredible performance here. Every emotion is just so well felt with her character. When she's angry, you feel angry. When she's sad, you feel sad. When she's really determined, you feel really determined. Just everything about Mildred Hayes. I really love this character. This may very well be the best actor's performance I've seen from anyone this year. Saoirse Ronan is very close. It's like dead lock between those two, but she did an incredible job in this movie, and if she doesn't get nominated, it will be a real shock because she absolutely killed it here. And then Woody Harrelson as well gives another fantastic performance, and he's one of the hardest working men in Hollywood right now. He's made about, I think, like 5 or 6 films just this year, which is pretty crazy, but his character of Sheriff Willoughby is so well realized because you can see that, sure, he does feel bad that, they haven't been able to close this case, but the main thing is he's trying to keep Mildred under control, and he's trying to make sure that she doesn't do anything to ruin the reputation, and I really love seeing how he handles her in this film. Their scenes together are some of the best. And there's also some personal stuff he's dealing with. The movie really dives deeper into his home life, and I don't really want to get into it because there was a huge thing about his character in this movie that I did not know about going into it, and I don't want you guys to know either. It's a genuine, very shocking revelation, but when it comes up, not only did it make me care more for his character, but when a certain revelation happens, a lot of his previous actions make a lot more sense. And I thought Harrelson just did a really great job here. Once again, he gives a fantastic performance. There was one scene in particular with him that honestly almost had me on the verge of tears. I think he did an incredible job in this movie, and I loved what he did here. But the person I also really want to talk about that I think is just as good as McDormand, even though Harrelson is great, is Sam Rockwell as Officer Dixon. Now, Sam Rockwell, everyone says he's a very underrated actor. I haven't seen most of his movies. I haven't seen Moon. I haven't seen Conviction. I haven't seen a lot of the stuff that he's done, but he was fantastic in this movie because he's playing a character that isn't necessarily the most likable guy. Officer Dixon is really not that great of a cop. He often teeters on, just completely losing it, and he's very much a man who's driven by his emotions. Like, there's one scene where I'm not going to get into what it's all about, but let's just say he definitely goes a bit too far, that is for sure, and he's also very racist, and he's just not very well respected, and the change that he undergoes in this movie is honestly pretty spectacular, and the way they get you to care about his character is also very well done. This is a character who really has massive potential, but he's not really living up to it, and he's someone who you can tell is kind of thing he's only going to amount to what he really is right now, but where his character really does go from the beginning to end is just very well realized. It is the definition of a great character arc, and I really love what Rockwell did here. He gives a very quiet performance. He never really has that big breakdown scene that you're waiting for, but he still does an incredible job here. I still loved his performance in the movie, and I really loved what he did here as well. Honestly, the entire cast really kills it. John Hawkes as Mildred's ex-husband Charlie is really great here. Peter Dinklage I thought was really good. Even though he's not in this movie a ton, he still was really good. Lucas Hedges, once again, just saw him in Lady Bird, and he was great here. Great here as well. I really love the character of Robbie. This is Mildred's grieving son who's trying to move on, but you can tell that their relationship is a bit fractured, and I like that these two are trying to still have a decent relationship, and I did like what they do with that. Abbie Cornish was really good here as Woody Harrelson's wife. Even some of the smaller characters like Samara Weaving or Caleb Landry Jones, everyone really does kill it here. I can't really think of one performance that didn't leave some sort of an impression on me, and it's just because of how well casted this film is and what this film really does do with character. It really uses all these actors to their fullest ability, and that is something I will absolutely give this film. So now let's get to the directing and the writing, because that is one of the most interesting things about this film. A film with this dark subject matter, you would think would be a film that completes its, that takes itself completely seriously, and that is just such a bleak film, which this film very much is. The film at points does feel very hopeless, and it does go into some very dark territory. But it's also mixed with very well-realized levity, surprisingly. There's a lot of comedy throughout this film, far more than I was expecting. Yes, there was some in the trailer, but trailers can really deceive you, and I did not expect there to be as much humor in this movie. And I pretty much equated to Manchester by the Sea, where you think that movie, yes, it's very depressing subject matter, but it also has very well-realized comedy, and that is the case with Three Billboards here, which oddly enough both have Lucas Hedges, and they both use him in a comedic way. But the way this film takes itself, that's not to say the film doesn't take itself seriously, because it absolutely is. It's just, it finds a way to balance the film, so while it is a very captivating film, it's also very endlessly entertaining, and I thought those two elements worked very well here. There are a lot of moments that are definitely a lot of fun to watch, but the film is also brutally realistic. The way it's handled, it takes itself in a very serious manner when it comes to some of the topics, and when it gets serious, for me, I thought because the comedy was so consistent, the serious moments stood out even more, and I think I really attribute that to Martin McDonagh's just absolutely stellar directing here, which once again, similar to Sam Rockwell, I am not that familiar with his work. I haven't seen Seven Psychopaths. I haven't seen In Bruges. I know. I need to get around to that at some point, but after this film, I definitely want to do that because I really do love his style here. Like I said, I love that he takes a very brutally honest look, but he finds a way to add that comedy in there, and it works because it's not a film that just makes you feel depressed and makes you feel, just really terrible and is just there to it's not a complete cry fest. That's not what this film is. It does have a lot of entertaining moments, and I was definitely very surprised by that. The screenplay here is easily one of my favorites of the entire year. I really did love the story because, like I said, we're dealing with some very frustrating storytelling where you have this woman and she puts up these 3 billboards and we're kind of left stalling. We want those answers. We want them to finally get to the bottom of things, but it's just a case that they don't have enough evidence. There isn't enough developing, and believe it or not, that kind of stuff happens a lot. There are just some cases that for a long time are just kind of put on a hold, and they very much are kept under wraps. And you can see that this is a character, Mildred Hayes, is not taking no for an answer, and I really did love the way that was done. But I love with the film, it doesn't just focus on the billboards overall. The billboards is really the catalyst for everything else that goes down the film, but the film is, like I said, very much a character-driven film. There's a lot of stuff these characters do go through, and a lot of the movie focuses on, can these characters keep it together? Can they maintain some sort of normal life? Can they move on from this case? Mildred Hayes in particular, can she move on from this one thing happening to her? Is there a way for her to begin again? And I thought they did that in just a very well-realized manner. But she's also someone who, like I said, is very much focused on getting those answers, and I thought they did that very well as well here. Also, when you eventually find out how Angela was raped, because they do get into that, it's heartbreaking, honestly. It is absolutely heartbreaking the way it went down, and I thought they handled that in a very satisfying manner. But the film, one of the things I also really did love about this movie is what it really does with these characters. Even some of the smaller characters really do have a conclusive arc. They start the film and you think they're one way, but then they really do peel back the layers of these characters, and you see they're a lot more complex than that, especially Sam Rockwell. He starts off the film, you really don't like him, but as the movie goes on and certain events happen, you really start to care more and more for this guy, and I thought they handled that perfectly, and I love the way it was handled. But it never felt preachy. It never felt like they were hitting you over the head. It felt brutally realistic. It felt like these were directions the characters would go in, and I did think that was definitely very well done here. The case overall is very compelling, and the billboards in general, the way that what that really says about the film and the way that really plays in the film is definitely very well done. It shows, like I said, how adamant Mildred is to get answers, and there's one certain scene where you can just see how crazy she is and how much, I mean, not crazy, but you can just see how, just how important the answers really are to her and how she really wants to keep these billboards alive. And it was extremely well done. I love the way they handled that. Just everything about the screenplay I really did love here. The film also might have one of my favorite endings of the entire year. I thought the ending here was just so brilliantly well realized, and it perfectly combines the sense of satisfaction, but also this ambiguity, and I love the way it was done in that way. I'm not going to get into it, but it really does combine those two things very well, so you can kind of imagine what that was like. The cinematography here is also great. You really feel like you're in Missouri for the film. You get that very rural sense, and you kind of do feel like you're trapped here sometimes. You feel like there really isn't a way out of Missouri, and the way these characters are kind of stuck, especially, like I said, after a certain situation happens, which again, I don't want to talk about because it's just so shocking, and I'd rather you guys go into this fresh. The way these characters are basically forced to just, change their entire lifestyle, and everything is pretty much stripped away from them because of this one event, is just really heartbreaking. The cinematography really does play into that very well, and I very much enjoyed that. The score as well here is so well done. I really did love the score. It's at times very comical, sometimes it's also very dramatic, and I thought this Carter Burwell, once again, just was a master at the score. He did a great job here. And the editing of this movie. This movie is almost 2 hours long, but to me, it felt like an hour. Like, I was shocked when this movie ended. I was like, holy shit, it's already over. Like, this is one of those movies that just moves so quickly, and you get so into the characters that you just don't want it to end. And even though it's 2 hours, I could have spent more time with these characters. I really could have. I kind of wanted more time there, and that's when you know you're watching such an amazing film like this. But now, guys, I know that I said I wasn't going to get into it, but honestly, I want to talk spoilers. I really do. For a film like this, I really want to talk about spoilers, where we end up going in this film, because I was not expecting them to go in the direction that they do. So if you have not seen Three Billboards Outside of Missouri, do not watch the rest of this review. I really want to talk about what goes down later in the film, and I think it's just very well realized. So let's just get into it. Early on in the film, we find out, Woody Harrelson's character is dying and that he has cancer. Now, when he announced this, I said to myself, he's not going to make it, is he? He's not going to make it out of this film. When he has that whole scene where he's talking to Mildred and he ends up coughing up blood and it spills on her, I thought that was going to be the last we saw of his character, and I thought he was going to die at that very moment. I thought, maybe the reason we haven't seen a lot of Woody Harrelson in the trailer is because of the fact that, Woody Harrelson isn't in this movie all that much. That might also be why I'm not hearing about him a lot, because I'm not. I'm hearing Frances McDormand, Sam Rockwell, Oscar consideration. I'm not really hearing it for Woody Harrelson. But, after this, now it makes a lot of sense, because we do actually pick up with him, and not only that, we realize that, he has this amazing day with his kids where he takes them out to fish and then he has sex with his wife, and you realize that he wants this to be the last day of his life, and he ends up killing himself in the film, and that was extremely shocking. I did not expect him to go in that direction with his character, but it makes a lot of sense. It doesn't just feel like the film killed off this character just to kill off a character. You can understand why he went this direction, because he's ashamed that he's ill. He doesn't want to, believe that he's ill. He knows very well that he's dying, but he doesn't want the last thing that anyone sees of him to be him deteriorating. And the state he's in now, he feels content, and he just feels like it's his time to go out. But you can also tell that Mildred is a big part of that. The fact that he couldn't solve this case, the fact that she really kind of put him on the spot, and kind of singled him in and showed that, yeah, this is someone who isn't giving me answers and that I really do want these answers from, and you can tell how much that really did fuck him up. But even more so, it really does fuck up Jason, which I thought was extremely well handled, where Dixon ends up going here. He has that huge scene where he throws that guy out of a window. I mean, I knew someone was going to happen to Dixon then, because that's not what you do. That's not how the protocol goes. If someone has a gun on them, that's a different story, but for the most part, while Red definitely wasn't innocent, we saw that definitely the only reason Dixon went after Red is because he was the one who put the billboards up, so you can tell that obviously this was going to get him detained. And I like that Dixon, throughout the rest of the film, he doesn't have his job back. He's forced to continue his life without the one thing that really made him feel content, and that's similar to a lot of these characters. Mildred's forced to continue her life without her daughter. Willoughby has to continue his life with this illness. Dixon has to continue his life, without being a police officer. And where he does end up going, I love, because he basically gets that letter from Willoughby who tells him, I know you want to be a detective, you have this massive potential. So that's what Dixon decides to do. Despite the fact that he's not actually a detective, he decides to kind of take on that title. He survives that fire, and that last scene, where he confronts that guy, I do think that guy is the one who murdered Angela. Even though the evidence counts against it, he does seem like a very worthy suspect. However, I've been thinking about this. Obviously, the evidence says he doesn't, but maybe he knows someone, or he was associated with the person who did. So, I mean, we don't know all the details. There's still some things that are quite murky. And that's one of the things I really do love about this film, is that we don't have all the answers. We don't know everything that went down, and that's just how it works out in real life. Some details are just kind of blurred out. Some things are just kind of forgotten, and there are a lot of cases that aren't really paid a lot of attention to. So when we get to the ending of the film, which, let me just say, where Mildred goes, I really loved, and particularly in the scene between her and Charlie, because you can tell when she finds out that Charlie is the one that set the billboards on fire, she's ready to kill him. You see her, she's got that bottle, she's ready to commit murder here. I mean, she doesn't care. She's, this was her daughter. But she doesn't do that. She actually walks away, and tells him to just treat Penelope well. And what I took from that is that, she's just realizing that this isn't going to do any bit of good. She's already ruined the police's reputation. She's on good terms with Dixon. She's trying to get some closure in her life, and you can tell that she's realizing that maybe I need to take a step back here. Maybe I've done enough. I've gotten through to them, and I really did love seeing the way that was done there. I thought that was definitely a very well done scene. And then the way this movie does end, we realize that this guy is in fact a rapist, so they're gonna try to track him down. Whether or not they should kill him is left up in the air, and I love how ambiguous it is. You don't know what they're gonna do, and it makes sense for this film because the whole movie, they're left questioning what they really do. And I think that's a big thing for Mildred. The reason I think she doesn't want to say goodbye to Angela is because she doesn't know what role she really does have, after Mildred's death. I mean, sure, she runs that store, and sure, she does have Robbie, but other than that, she doesn't really know what role she really plays here, and I think that it's the same for Dixon. He doesn't really know what role he really plays, in this life anymore, and I think that's one of the reasons why they're contemplating whether or not they should kill this guy, should they just end this all, and I thought that was just a very satisfying way to end the film. It was such a great ending, and again, really is attributed because of the masterful directing that McDonagh presented throughout the film. So, overall, guys, Three Billboards Outside of Missouri is easily one of the best films of the entire year. It has such a well-done screenplay. It has a brutally honest story, and it's a film that's very unapologetic. It's not afraid to go into some very dark territory. It says a lot of things that might be unjust or might not be politically correct, but it makes sense in the context of the film. It is a fantastic story, and it doesn't really go the way you expect it to, and it's far more comedic than I expect it to be, but like I said, it also finds a way to take itself very seriously. It has some of those forms of the year, and you definitely should check this one out because it definitely has some massive Oscar potential, and I am absolutely going to give Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri an A+. Definitely check this one out, guys, if you can. This movie, I believe, is going wide now, and absolutely check it out. Like I said, you're definitely going to hear about it come Oscar season. But that's it, my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in my next video. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall. Left your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.